We are off and running, and I mean we are off and running on a Wednesday. What will we do without teamwork and the spirit of partnership on a day like today, Sarah? Because Steve Bisciotti just gave and partook in his first public interview in years. It was a sit-down at the league meeting down in Palm Beach, Florida, with Garrett Downing of Ravens Productions. John Harbaugh was also a part of this interview. And yeah, for our live audience, we're a bit behind. That's what happens when it's an 11:30 release.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes. The Ravens YouTube channel dropped this interview, and you and I are kind of already in slim pickings.
Our whole show was scrapped. Our whole show was scrapped at 11:30, 30 minutes before we were supposed to go on. Yeah.
Quite frankly, there wasn't much to scrap, but we scrapped a few things for sure.
I had a lot in the tank. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Minor on my end, they were minor, and I think probably both pale in comparison to what we now have, which is again Steve Bisciotti speaking for the first time in a long time, Ravens owner. So we're going to give our notable takeaways from this interview we've put together, and we've been working fiercely and quickly as possible for you with the audio clips. Number of things were talked about, but before we get into that, welcome inside the channel. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. It is the 2nd of April on this Wednesday, and here's what we've got coming up. Steve Bisciotti not only breaking his silence, Sarah, for the first time in years, as I've mentioned a couple times, but Harbaugh talked about how unfulfilled he feels by the success the team has had in recent years. And matter of fact, Steve went a little bit farther than that. He interjected at one point and said, quote, "We're pissed." So again, they've had a lot of success, particularly throughout the Lamar era, but as we know, nothing to show for it in terms of hardware, at least the one trophy that has proven to be pretty elusive for this group since Lamar came to Baltimore. A number of other things, including Steve's thoughts on John Harbaugh's extension that he just earned within the last week or so. Bisciotti talking about continuity, taking a back seat role behind the scenes. And then, of course, both expanding on Lamar Jackson, his impact, what it would mean if, or perhaps when, to use John's words, I know you would use when as well, he reaches the mountaintop, what that would mean for him, what that would mean from Steve Bisciotti's eyes. There's a ton that we got to get to, and we're going to do that right now.
Yeah, so just first, just truth be told, we split up the interview. You think we're late? We could have been later. We split up the interview. You took the first half. I took the second half, so that we could get it turned around and ready to go. So some of the stuff, I know I'll be reacting live. I mean, you've kind of given me a summary of it, but I haven't been able to take it myself. But it is the first. When is the last time he spoke? Sometimes he'll do one-off interviews. I feel like I remember him doing an interview with Russell Street Report right around when Lamar was getting a new contract. So 2023 is the last time I remember him speaking. Maybe there's some other stuff, little stuff here and there. He used to do it yearly. He used to do a State of the Ravens press conference yearly until 2019 when the Ravens went 14-2 because he hates doing media. So he's like, hey, if there's ever a time for me not to speak to the media, it's this year because we're 14-2. He can't do it in a losing year, right? So I miss those. I really miss those. And I'm happy that he spoke, but I wish it was more than just with the team, because obviously the team media, which I used to work for, because there's different questions if you were to go with the media. So I miss that, but I'll take this. I'll take it, but I'm going to have some follow-up questions I know that I wish will have been answered.
Yeah, let's be clear, too, along those lines. You can tell this has been edited, right? This is a team production-based interview. And so when you go and watch it, it's about 26 minutes. And the way that you watch it, the way you consume it, it's obvious to somebody that whether you're in editing, whether you're in broadcasting or not, it has been edited. Whether it's been filtered, you don't know. But ultimately, to your point, we'll take it, right? We'll take it. So this is actually the first time since I've covered the team, which was the beginning of 2019, that I've actually covered something that he's done on camera, right? So you mentioned the Russell Street Report interview, which was essentially in a non-audio, non-video type of format, right?
Right. It was just him relaying what he had said, what he had talked about with Steve.
Sure. Yeah. And you go back to maybe Jeff and a couple other pool reporters, right, catching up with him at this week and past years at the league meeting. Aside from that, there's been very little. So I'm looking forward to this. Let's begin. Here is the thumbnail that Ravens Productions provided here. And we'll, again, kick things off with John Harbaugh and Steve Bisciotti talking about this theme of unfinished business that it feels as if we've spent so much time, whether it's the Ronnie Stanleys, right, the Pat Ricards, the guys that have been a part of this core group that has not yet reached the pinnacle of what they're all chasing for. They all seem to feel that, right? Whether it's unfulfillment, whether it's unfinished business, or in Steve's case, they're just pissed off. Listen to this.
Steve, I've said this before. He's become like a big brother. I have a little brother, but I never had an older brother. And to have, over the course of this time, just what we've been through together, I just want to make him proud, and I want to work hard, and I want to find a way to continue to improve. I feel proud about the things that we've accomplished, but if unfulfilled, you feel like all we're really thinking about
is championships.
Yeah, we weren't talking about any of this other stuff.
We're pissed.
We're talking about let's get this done. Let's accomplish what we want to accomplish right now.
Yeah, so that would be a follow-up question I have. Well, tell me about why you're pissed off, Steve. That's a pretty, strong term. And John's saying he's unfulfilled. And honestly, Bobby, I think that's how all the fans feel, right? It's like you keep getting close year after year. As long as Lamar Jackson's healthy, you make it to the postseason. From 2019, you're 14-2. You're the favorite to win. Boom, you're out. 2023, Chiefs aren't looking great. You have home field advantage throughout the playoffs until the Super Bowl. Boom, you're out. 2025, everybody's healthy, or just about everybody's healthy. Zay kind of goes in at the end there, and everything's going for you. You got Derrick Henry, you got Lamar Jackson in the same backfield. You fix the defense. You go to Buffalo, 3 turnovers, boom, you're out. And so, yeah, we feel unfulfilled. Yeah, we feel, pissed off, to use Steve Bisciotti's term. But I wish there was more of dig into this with me. What exactly are you pissed off about? Is it just that you're not making it, or is there something more specific?
Well, somebody that's definitely pissed too, because he's used those words before, or ticked is his word, right, is Lamar Jackson, who's getting ready for his 8th NFL season. And this next clip is in response to Garrett asking first to John Harbaugh, essentially, hey, how badly do you want a Super Bowl win for Lamar? John gave his answer. Steve was second. Here he had to say, this is what he had to say.
I don't look at Lamar singularly. It's such I want it for Ronnie Stanley. Mm-hmm. I want it for Marlon Humphrey. It's like it just doesn't stop with Lamar. Lamar doesn't even stand out to me as who I'm rooting for, right? Like, we've been doing this forever. I want it for Eric DaCosta. Has he technically won a Super Bowl as a GM? No. Right. So it's like, okay, I want that. Ozzie got a couple of them. I want Eric to get it. Right. So it's like, yeah.
We want it for the fans too, man. I want to see the fans dance in the streets like they were in 2013 and like they were in 2000.
I don't like waiting 12 years.
No.
And yet I'm respectful of the fact that I've got partners downstairs that still don't have one. Impatience is good for you. I think it's healthy to a degree, because all of us still feel it, and if I had burned through 4 coaches, then it would be completely different, because it's like, okay, now let's see what you can do. And now let's see, I know what we can do. I know that we work to put ourselves in position to win, and we all get credit for that. And that's all you can do. And I hate it that every year you just have to start back over again. But you know what? This is not for the meek.
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah. So again, I don't like waiting 12 years. Talks about, impatience is a good thing. And, he said at the end, Bobby, which we didn't clip, because at the very last question, Garrett asked him, well, where do you kind of see the franchise in 30 years? Because obviously they've just had their 30-year anniversary, 30-year birthday. And Steve was like, I don't care about 30 years from now. I want to win now. I want to win now. So in a lot of ways, even though he has a lot more control than fans, He is a lot like a fan, right? Like, forget about 30 years, forget about in 2 years, forget about later, forget about all this. I'm ticked. I want a Super Bowl now. I don't want to wait another 12 years. He wants it, and he wants it all now.
But you can also appreciate too the beginning part of that answer. Of course, everybody wants it for Lamar. Steve wants it for Lamar. So many outside of Baltimore want it for Lamar. But Bisciotti was also like, look, this is an organization. And I liked how he took that answer, that question with the answer in a different direction. And at the end of it, he talked about coaches, right? How he could have made it a carousel of different coaches throughout his tenure here, but he hasn't chosen to do so. And because of that hiring process, because of that organizational philosophy, what's the word that is always tied to this group? It's continuity. And that was, of course, a major topic earlier this week when we covered John Harbaugh's extension. I mean, we learned of the extension last Friday, late afternoon. You and I covered it extensively earlier this week. And here is Steve talking about the decision itself.
Steady. I think we were doing a lot of the right things. And yeah, it's not a lot of work. I don't know if you spent any time on it, but I didn't. I mean, you've got an agent, and I've got Sashi. So it's just kind of, we knew it was going to come. It wasn't like a surprise, I don't think, to either of us. It was just, I didn't know how long it was going to take to work out the deal. But I think his agent probably was excited to get it done as quickly as we were. And I don't think it took much time, and there wasn't much deal. We're just extending a thing. I think he demanded more money, but other than
use that term loosely.
Suggested. You suggested.
Appreciate it.
Strong suggestion. So yeah, we're happy to have him for 4 more years.
Is there a friendship there or what?
There's definitely a friendship there. I know that they probably talk every day. I mean, it's funny. We're talking off the top about how we never hear from him. But when I interviewed Steve Bisciotti back in the day, I was like, how often are you talking to John and all of them? He's like, it's pretty much every day. Like I'm in contact with them. So that is hilarious. He's like, yeah, you demanded a bunch of money. Well, let's use that word loosely. Or he's like, strongly suggested. Does that work for you? Ian Rappaport had reported that it was north of what Jim Harbaugh got. So the brothers are still competing. I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me at all, Bobby, if John comes to him and it's just exactly north of his brother, because those two guys compete with each other still to this day in their 60s.
Oh yeah. And what did we say that was? It was in the 16, 17, 18
I think it was like
range?
16. I think Jim was about 16. Yeah.
Okay.
And then 18 was the next person up, and then 20 million was Andy Reid as the highest.
Of course,
as of February, at the end of February. But he glossed over it so quickly. Anybody that wants to know why he extended John Harbaugh, he said it in one word. And he said continuity.
Steady.
He said continuity at the very beginning. He was like, why did you continuity, and then moved on and talked more about steadiness. Yeah.
I think the first word was, I mean,
Here, play it real quick. Just
Well, I just deleted it off.
Oh, you deleted
it? It's steady. It's 1,000% steady.
Okay.
But that's a good, nice
but
segue.
It's synonyms, right? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the next segment is where he actually uses that word and expands on.
Okay, let's get into that then.
Yeah, it's perfect because he expands on the most common compliment that he receives from the outside about his organization, which again is continuity.
Obviously, it's everything. The hiring process is fraught with mistakes because you don't have the time. I mean, we spent 10 hours together before I hired you, and that lasted, it's now 17 years. So how do you not make a mistake? So I see my partners, my business partners, they make mistakes, but it's not necessarily that they're bad judges of character or talent or anything. It's that they're under the gun. They don't have time to get to know people. We're hiring strangers, you know. I mean, I did that in my business in my whole life, and Art was great at it too. And so, like, you know, I came in under his tutelage, and that was the one thing I think Art was great at was judging character, keeping a family environment, keeping an honest, transparent environment. And I thought he was really good at all those skills. And then he hands me Ozzie. I mean, he drafts him in the first round, and then he says, hey, if you're giving up football, you're not giving up the Browns. So scouting or coaching, you decide. So I inherit him, and one of his first hires is Eric. So that's put in, you know, right there. I inherit a coach. 3 years after I take charge, I replace him with John. And continuity is a gift that you get. You try and participate in that continuity, but it's really it's bigger than people. You've got to really work at it, and it can go sideways if you don't work hard at it. And that it is like we get complimented by the continuity, and it's like, well, what's the alternative? Rolling through coaches. Right. Well, then you're picking the wrong people, obviously, and they're failing at their job.
I got to think that as someone who's interviewed him before, as you've mentioned during your time with the Ravens, a lot of this philosophies that he's sharing, super familiar to what you've heard years ago, right? Not a lot's changed in terms of his vision, I would think.
He sounds the same today in his philosophy. And obviously, he's a billionaire for a reason. He did it based off of hiring people. That's what he does, is he staffs people. And that's how he made his money. And so he knows his philosophy, and he sticks to it, and he doesn't panic. And so that's where in the beginning I said, when he talks about being pissed off and being impatient and saying this isn't for the meek, all that kind of stuff, I felt like that's when he was talking like a fan. Where he veered from some of the fans is this part right here. It's this part right here. When you are this close to what you want over and over and over and over and over again. But a lot of people are like, cut bait, go a different direction. Because they'll say, what's the definition of insanity? It's trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And he's over here, what we just listened to, is saying that continuity is a gift. He called it a gift. And then he's saying, but if I just keep doing a carousel of coaches, that just means I'm hiring the wrong people. Like, I keep getting it wrong. I'm the one who keeps failing. And so there's got to be, I'm sure there's some people saying there's something in between, because when John Harbaugh finishes his current extension, he will have been a Ravens coach for 20 years. 20 years. That is just unheard of in the NFL. And so he didn't say it right there, but he has said it in the past. I really do think that his goal, Steve Bisciotti, is to make sure he's got the people in that put him in the conversation, which is what's happening. We're in the playoffs every year. For fans, it's like, but you're in the playoffs, but you're not getting the Super Bowl. So cut bait. And he's like, no, I'm in the conversation every year. Stuff just has to go our way once we get there. And so he's ticked. He's ticked, Bobby, but he's almost making no changes from last year. Staying with the same coach, got the same GM. Now we've got the same two coordinators. And that's good on the defensive side. Get some continuity there. And you've got the same franchise quarterback. You've got 80% of probably 85% of the offense returning, maybe 90% now, because I think it's only the left guard that will be a new starter. And so when he says that continuity is a gift, he means it, which is why you're seeing very little changes, and certainly no changes at his head coaching position. And again, if he finishes his contract through 20 years.
Another thing that doesn't appear to be changing in this phase of his ownership is his willingness to kind of take a back seat, right? And allow everything that we're talking about right now, the framework, the hiring, the structure, to play out the way that it's supposed to. And he opened up about, again, his willingness to, I mean, this is the first time we've heard from him publicly in years Here he is.
I think I don't come out of left field very often to him. When I'm giving him advice, I think that we like have our lanes, and I know what he's going through because he's the face of the franchise, and he's going through these decisions. He's being questioned.
And of course, he's referring to Harbaugh, just to be clear.
And criticized and everything else. And so I take it seriously. It makes me mad when he's unduly criticized. If he's criticized and I agree with it, I kind of have to work my way into telling you that I agree with the criticism.
And you're good at it. You do a good job of it.
Yeah, it's like a sharp knife, not a butter knife.
That's quick. It's a quick shot.
So yeah, it's just I love feeling like at the end of the day that I contributed to his north. I know what he wants. I know what he wants to accomplish. Can he get distracted sometimes? Yeah, because there are distractions all around him. There's no distractions around me. So I think it's my opportunity to kind of like pull him back and remind him. I'm not telling him to be somebody. I'm reminding him that he might be a hair off of being what he wants to be when he wants to be, So, I like my role, and I like my role being behind the scenes. I don't wish that on him, but it's par for the course. It's why he makes more money than I do.
Really? Check the books on that.
Sarah, earlier on in the show, I saw someone in the live chat say that it's unwise to mix friendship with business in a business environment. I think that example right there is a great one that clearly shows while there is a friendship, ultimately Steve is John Harbaugh's boss.
Mm-hmm.
And those tough conversations have to be had. And while they're never going to air those conversations, we probably won't ever have a good feel from our seat right now. Maybe you had a good feel for it back when you were at one winning drive. While we'll never have that, and as an outside looking in, that's just how it is. It's not to say that everything is hunky dory all the time. But I just thought that was a nice little snippet of realizing that.
Yeah, John set up one of the top clips that you had. He said he's like a big brother, right? Because he has a younger brother. And I think that's it right there. What Steve Bisciotti just said is really a good leader, because he's like, I definitely give him feedback. He's like, I find my way to do it. And he said, but all I do is remind him of who he wants to be. And when I notice that he's off. So I didn't see the comment that you just referenced when you talk about, friends should never be in business. And it depends on the people. Like, wouldn't you say you and I have become friends, even though we've met twice in person? Would you say we're friends?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like I know about your bad days. I know about your good days. Same vice versa. Do either one of us pull punches especially when we're off, even when we're here, sometimes we debate, we don't pull punches, right? It's crazy to me that we can give each other honest feedback, and then the next minute we're talking about, dating or family or anything like that. And so I think it honestly depends on the people. Are you somebody that can control yourself and not take advantage of your friends? Are you somebody that can control yourself and listen to feedback, whether you're a friend or a boss? You know what I mean? It's just like those personalities are there. And so I can tell you, again, just by being around Steve Bisciotti in the building, he doesn't pull punches, but he's also not a jerk. And this is the best thing about him when he talks about having a backseat role. He lets people do their jobs. I don't know if you've ever worked for somebody that constantly undercuts you, but it's a terrible, terrible feeling where they say you're empowered, but then they undercut you, right? And so all I can think of is Dallas Cowboys, where you have coaches that are weekly undercut by their owner because he's in front of the media all the time. And so you constantly have to watch what he's saying not to like be against it, not conflict with it, all that kind of stuff. And you're not truly empowered. And it's tough to do your job that way. It's tough for players to respect you. It's tough for fans to respect you. It's tough for media to respect you because it's like, okay, yeah, we'll talk to you like you're a coordinator because pretty soon I'm going to have an interview with the owner and he doesn't pull and he can say whatever he wants, you know? And so Steve Bisciotti, and I saw it my entire 13 years of working there. Ozzie Newsome was the GM. He had the final call. It wasn't like, he kind of has the final call, but it's really Steve Bisciotti. Same thing with Dick Cass, and now it's Eric DeCosta, and now it's John Harbaugh. And Steve does a good job of delineating, you know, who has a final call, but they're all good at still working together as being partners, and he fosters that. All of it would fall apart if he undercut them at every turn. And so I love that. He's like, I don't tell him who to be. I remind him who he wants to become and that he might be a little bit off because of distractions due to the very public role that he has. It's excellent leadership.
Before we shift gears to the Lamar Jackson portion of it, where we put our takeaways together, here's one more from Steve just on the idea of ownership and a few of his beliefs along the way.
My strength is that I bought a hobby, not a business. I've been in business. I was successful at business. I took pride in that business. When I got into this, I wanted it to be an uber hobby. And I think that it freed me to look at this next career of mine as not life and death, because I spent 20 years like everything was life and death. And so I have a partner and it's life and death for him.
I was just going to say,
right?
Good for me. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not for me. And so I think that that's why I can give good counsel, because it's not life or death for me.
Okay, great.
I got to tell you, I feel the same way about our job. I tell you all the time, this is not life or death, right? Like this, I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, what do you do for, where do you work? And I was like, I have more of a hobby, you know? And so, you know, you can just enjoy it and you can look at it differently, right? And that's another way that we balance each other. I definitely look at it as a hobby, and you can look at it differently. So how awesome is it that his hobby is to own an NFL franchise? It's kind of cool.
For real. Good place to reset. And we got a few more clips coming up here when it comes to this Steve Bisciotti first on-camera interview in years. He and John Harbaugh sat down with Garrett Downing at the annual NFL League meeting. But first, before that reset takes place, let's get to some super chats and also let you know we got a great audience today. Over 2,500 concurrently watching. Please like the video on your way in if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily content. And just a couple weeks ago, we rolled out our first ever opportunity to become a channel member here in YouTube. So you can click on the link that's included as a pinned comment in the live chat. It's also at the top of the show notes if you're interested in learning more, cashing in on some incentives that we have available to you, becoming more involved with the channel, and ultimately supporting the channel as well. It's a great way to do all that and more. We appreciate you guys. Dreams checked in about 20 minutes ago, and he writes, they're pissed because we should have 5 Super Bowls as a franchise. He is a member. He's a channel member of ours, as is Clinton Ganaway, Sarah.
Certainly, out of those 3 shots since 2019, one, right? One of those 3. Clinton says 2 things can be true. Right MO. What's that? Right MO in wanting to keep people. Oh, it's the right mentality. Okay. Right MO in wanting to keep people. And in my opinion, keeping coaches too long, which is a mistake.
Appreciate you, Clinton. Appreciate you, Dreams. Appreciate all of you guys for being with us on this Wednesday, the 2nd of April. The Vault and our inaugural summit takes place tomorrow night. I mean, I fly into Columbus tomorrow night. We're not going to get into the nitty gritty until probably
post show tomorrow.
Yeah, some point on Friday.
About 24 hours now.
But yeah, looking forward to this weekend. Very fired up about it.
Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Well, we'll have to talk about it some more. But yeah, coming in late Thursday. Grab some dinner. We got to be up and early for our workout.
Yep.
Another show. And yeah, there's lots to talk. There's lots I got to talk to you about.
You already know it.
Yeah.
All right. So that now brings us to the second part of this interview and our takeaways on what was talked about regarding Lamar Jackson from Steve Bisciotti and John Harbaugh. If you're just tuning in, this is a brand new conversation that was released by Ravens Productions from the annual NFL League meeting down in Palm Beach, Florida. Garrett Downing sat down with Steve and John. And Sarah, we had a couple different clips here first and foremost, but the way this answer, or I guess this question was set up, and the way that the answer that you're about to hear was essentially when they drafted Lamar, given all the conversation surrounding him, whether he was supposed to be a wide receiver prospect, whether you really you really thought that he could be durable, right, and reliable at the quarterback position, and how much of a potential risk it would be to spend first-round draft capital, which they ended up doing in the 2018 draft, all of that. Garrett was like, did you view that, or how much of a risk did you view that as being? Here's Bisciotti.
Don't even look at it as a risk, really. I don't like that word, because if it failed, we failed. It wasn't that Lamar failed. So the minute we're making an out of the box, again, how out of the box was it? I just thought, well, it's going to succeed because we're going to mitigate the risk. That's the whole point of taking on risks, is having confidence in your partners that you can mitigate it and bring it down to almost no risk at all.
It is crazy though, Bobby. I mean, I'm glad he saw it that way. The NFL world certainly did not, which is why Lamar was the 5th quarterback taken. And so, but again, this is just somebody that's just like, Steve Bisciotti's just unafraid. He's like, don't call it a risk. Like, how dare you? Do you know who we are? We're the Ravens. And if Lamar fails, it's because I failed, and I'm not going to fail. So it's not a risk. Like, he's like, I have the right people, in the building. I have the right coach. I have the right, all of it. And do we have John talking about it too? I don't want to.
Oh yeah, we do.
Talk about the risk nature too, or what people were thinking at the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. He did, and I'll have this in a second. But there's something about Bisciotti, the way that he speaks. He's just a master communicator. He controls the room. He just oozes of confidence, oozes of this self-worth and this self-security, and just again, it almost just takes up your entire. It takes your attention. It grabs your attention. But yeah, here's Harbaugh talking about his guy as well.
Can't put it into words. Can't even express it. It's like so deep. It's so deep inside. Such a desire, just such a determination to get it done. For really, you're right. For Lamar, for all the guys. I mean, every single person in that locker room, every single person in that building, Steve, all of us, we want that kind of success because, I mean, yeah, I think we're doing process. We're doing so many things right. But you know what? We haven't been able to be good enough when we needed to be good enough to take the next step to get that much closer. And even if we'd won the championship game 2 years ago against the Chiefs, we still would have had to win the Super Bowl. If we'd have beaten the Bills last year, we still would have had to beat the Chiefs and win the Super Bowl. So there are other steps. We've got to get good enough in everything we do so when those moments come the next time around that we can come through, But we all want it for each other. And so we want it for Lamar. Absolutely, we want it for each other.
I don't look at Lamar singularly. It's such a...
That's the one we just played. He just said that. Okay, that was not the clip I was looking for. That was him talking about wanting to win the Super Bowl for Lamar and how badly he wants it. But going back to the risk idea, so Steve Bisciotti is saying that he didn't see Lamar as a risk. And then John Harbaugh kind of like flipped the risk back on others. He's like, listen, it was only a risk because he played differently. But he's like, how many other quarterbacks were really a risk, but didn't seem like it because he was a traditional quarterback? He's like, and we had the traditional quarterback. We had Joe Flacco. Like, he was the traditional drop back guy that didn't run, more statuesque, all that kind of stuff. And so he said, how many people, he goes, but having the best of those traditional quarterbacks there weren't a ton out there. And so he's like, how many people failed at trying to recreate Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or trying to get that traditional quarterback. But just because there were a lot of traditional quarterbacks doesn't mean that it wasn't a risk. How many times have people hoped that they had the next, Tom or Peyton or, any of these guys? And so they took a risk on them who ultimately didn't pan out. So he's like, what? Just because it was a different style didn't make it a risk. And so those guys were totally viewing it from a different lens than the rest of the NFL world. Obviously, Louisville fans felt differently too because they had watched what Lamar could do. And so I like that while other teams were like hesitant to go with Lamar because they didn't feel like it really was a reflection of what they felt like they could do with this incredible talent. What kind of coach are you? What kind of organization are you if you can't take a phenom like Lamar Jackson and just let him do what he's been doing? You kind of just have to step back and let him cook. But nobody else had the confidence that they could do that. And then we saw it again, Bobby, in 2023 when the Ravens put the non-exclusive franchise tag and like clockwork, report after report after report, even after seeing that he was an MVP. Even after seeing that, they still didn't have confidence in themselves in putting a team around him that would just let him cook. And so that was more reflection on not only a lack of vision in Lamar, but of a lack of vision of a lack of confidence in what you could do with a phenom like Lamar. So it makes me happy that they didn't even see it as a risk. And here we are, 7-8 years later, where the Ravens are perpetual playoff contenders, perpetual Super Bowl contenders, even though they haven't done it yet. And he's a perpetual MVP winner.
They've also been perpetually stable at the quarterback position prior to Lamar. And that's something that both men spoke about at length as well, beginning with Harbaugh.
Well, it's been massive. When I first got here, we were looking for a quarterback. And it was new to me. I was coming in as a special teams coach kind of guy. And they were talking about drafting the franchise quarterback and with the 7th pick in the draft and the strategy that was involved in that. I remember a conversation we had at the base of the steps. I'll come off the practice field where Steve and Ozzie and Eric were involved, Dick Cass were involved in this. And I'm just listening and learning and watching how's this going to go. And they worked it all out and we ended up with Joe Flacco. Yeah. And it was amazing.
I'll never forget it.
That conversation?
Oh, yeah. And exactly where you said we were, because I had taken over in 2004, and then Kyle Bowler didn't work out like we hoped he would. And then Steve McNair comes in, and then his body breaks down, and then 206 turns into a terrible 207, which leaves us with the 8th pick in the draft. Hire him, and they're saying that there's one first-round quarterback in that draft that year, and it was Matt Ryan. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't care what you have to give him. Like the whole Mike Ditka, Ricky Williams thing. Like, I don't care. I'm not so dug into the value of draft picks right now because without Matt Ryan, we're not going to be any good. And
because you have to have the quarterback.
Got to have the quarterback. So to me, it was like, stop talking to me about draft assets when there is I want a team asset, and that is everybody in the world is saying that there's one first-round quarterback. And it turned really out to be true because we're the ones that went back in and got Joe.
Right.
Cam said, this guy's got as much upside as Ryan. You shouldn't give up the world. We can do just as well with Joe. Yeah. And I was like, all right, you better. I don't know you very well. You better not be wrong.
You better be right.
We appreciate it, Cam.
And so that's what we did. And so we traded out instead of down and got Joe. And we had a hell of a run with Joe. And we were able to parlay this into 7 more years. So we have had a nice run.
I believe he was referring to former OC Cam Cameron. Believe that was who they meant by Cam.
Yeah.
Who vouched hard there for Flacco and how that ended up turning out.
He's like, I don't know you, so you better be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that worked out. So, and it's true. It's like the league is divided into 2 types of organizations, those with the quarterback and those without. You don't divide it by those who have a head coach and those who do not. You don't divide it It's that. It's like the quarterback. It's the quarterback. The quarterback is everything, which is why the quarterback usually makes 20 to 25% of the salary cap, right? And then the rest of the 52 other players divvy up, the other 75 to 80%. And because it's all about the quarterback. It's all about the quarterback. And so Steve Bisciotti knows that from the Kyle Bowler years, and then switching it to Joe Flacco, and then now Lamar Jackson. Remember, he was like, whatever it takes to pay him, like, let's do it, because he did not want to live in that world and that with those other teams that do not have a quarterback. That's why the Steelers have had a downfall, one of the most storied franchises. It's like they just haven't had anything since Big Ben. It's just why teams go up and down. It's all about the quarterback. It's all about the quarterback.
Tell you what, I thought there was a decent shot that 38-year-old Calais Campbell might be quarterback in Baltimore's defensive front next year. There was a little bit of buzz this week that, yes, he was mulling retirement, but he also had multiple offers on the table, Sarah. He's going to be 39 in September. He ended up going to Arizona. The reports were out there that the Ravens and the Dolphins both had offers in for Calais, and he ultimately goes back to where it all started for him. He was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals way back when. He's turned into a 6-time Pro Bowler, of course. He spent several years in Baltimore a couple years ago, spent last year in Miami. Prior to that, he was in Atlanta. But there you have it, the 2008 second-round pick, played in Arizona until 2016. He's coming back for an 18th NFL season. Cardinals are giving him 1 year, $5.5 million with a max value of $7.5 million. But there was some buzz on this earlier in the week when Pro Football Talk, and I believe it was actually Barry Jackson, who's a Miami Herald reporter down in South Florida, noted that it was the Ravens and the Dolphins, Sarah, who had at least put out preliminary offers for him. And that doesn't come as a surprise because of all that buzz around the deadline where the Ravens clearly were looking to bring him in back in November last season.
I agree with you. There's probably, like you have here from Pro Football Talk, saying that the Ravens and Dolphins put in offers. But wasn't it a matter of hours where that report came out and then him being signed?
Correct.
Okay, so that's agent stuff right there. So I don't at all doubt that the Ravens put in an offer. I don't doubt that they had some interest, especially after the Ravens were trying to trade for him at the end of last year. But this is all agent stuff where they're trying to get things over the top. So
let me clarify one thing too.
Let
me clarify one thing on the timing of that. Pro Football Talk, as this screenshot notes, tweeted this out 2:41 yesterday, April 1st, yesterday afternoon. Barry Jackson's reporting was from the day prior. So just so we're clear, the Barry Jackson reporting that Pro Football Talk is sharing here, there's about a 24-hour difference between the two. But still, it's all happening this week. And of course, everybody's together at the league meeting.
Exactly. They're all together at the league meeting. I still do think that, getting that out there was imperative, because here's the thing. For him to get 1 year for 5.5, I think that's $2 more million than he got last year. Let me look this up. That's a solid contract for a guy who's mulling retirement at age 38. So let me just see. And it's also good for a compensatory pick. And so, yeah, he's 5.5. So last year he signed, it was a lot more. It was 1 year, $2 million, according to Spot Rack here.
Right. I mean, in Arizona's offer was a lot more. Yeah.
So last year he was making $2 million. And he just got a deal for 5.5 up to 7.5. And it was so big that it's going to give the Dolphins a compensatory pick. So I can't imagine the Ravens were that much into it.
No.
Where they were willing to knock off a comp pick, because we know how much Eric DeCosta loves those comp picks, and to give him 5.5 when he made $2 million last year. So something tells me the offers were very, very different, because Calais had also said, again, when you're going at 38, you're deciding, no, I'm not going to retire, I'm going to come back. You want a legit Super Bowl chance. And I don't think anybody's picking the Arizona Cardinals as a Super Bowl favorite. here on April 2nd, and they won't do it heading into training camp or into September. So I'm guessing he got he was pretty happy with that offer and was like, okay, well, I probably won't win a Super Bowl anyway, so might as well go out with a bang with a nice contract.
Selfishly, it's a bummer though, right? Because he's accomplished everything else in the league and at his position besides that coveted trophy. And look at the durability and the productivity at this point. Again, you mentioned he's 38, but he'll be 39 for his 18th season once it gets started in September. 17 games last year for Miami, 52 total tackles, 35 of which were solo, 12 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, a forced fumble, and 5 PBUs. And that's not to mention the impact that he has with that frame, right, on the field goal kicking units and whatnot, the protection units for special teams. And he definitely blocked 1 or 2 in Baltimore from what I remember. There was some smoke back in November. Mike McDaniel himself, the Dolphins head coach, after the report came out, confirmed that he did step in and nix what was a trade that was in place ahead of the deadline back in November. Ravens reached out to Miami, wanted to make it happen. And now moving forward, obviously this is a defensive front that right now has some needed depth, that they need to bring in more depth, right? Michael Pierce retires. You hope that Travis Jones, he's certainly shown flashes that he's capable of stepping in and stepping up. And, Brent Urban right now in free agency, he's on the back 9 of his career. Do they bring him back? I know he's been a handshake kind of guy the last couple summers for them. So anyway, Calais goes to Arizona. And then to your point, there was a lot of, I'm sure a lot of back and forth going on between agents and teams. And
would have been nice to have him back, but
not at that price. Yeah, they can't do that.
Well, not only just at that price, but like he's not a needle mover at this point.
Well, I remember thinking the same when he went to Atlanta. Falcons gave him the bag, and he left Baltimore in free agency at that point. I remember thinking, oh man, it would be really great to have, his presence, his sheer presence alone, whether it's on-field productivity or his locker room presence. But gets another payday, and then to your point,
it's gonna be
you're not winning a Super Bowl in Arizona. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. Let's get to some Derrick Henry offseason content, shall we? Because you already know it's
Derrick Henry offseason workouts.
Yeah. Oh, twist your arm, right? Twist our arm. We got to show you guys Derrick Henry offseason content. You're dang right we do. Here he is. What looks to be, I'm guessing this is in Texas. But here he is hitting some hill work. He's got chains attached to him, just absolutely bodying this hill. I mean, really? He's doing agility work on a steep hill, Sarah. I mean, I'd love to know the incline, the degree of this hill that he's working on.
He's going up it so smoothly that if it were a normal person, I'd be like, oh, you just tilted the camera. You know what I mean? Like, that's just flat ground. Look at him beating whoever he's running with. That might be his trainer or something on that last one. He's going uphill, and he's got, what are those called, where you've got the elastic pulling you back? You've got that waistband connected to like a bungee cord. Look, he's got that pulling him, and he's about to beat his workout partner there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But the agility stuff on top of the hill too. It's one thing, like, yeah, you got weight pulling you back, obviously, and it's just sheer force to continue it. But for you to be doing ladder drills on that kind of steepness, I mean, it just shows you this guy's built different. And some other content here as well. There he is, the 33rd team. Took a look at the yards after contact per rush.
This is just last year?
And those were leaders from 2024, yeah, with a minimum of 200 rushes in the regular season from a year ago. And look at where he sits, second behind Bucky Irving in Tampa with 3.50 yards after contact. That's good for second league-wide, and I think he's the only one on this list that's close to 30. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, it's unreal. But he's just built different. He's just built different. Like, he looks bigger than 90% of defenders.
Yeah.
Like, you'll have like the Michael Pierces of the world, that he doesn't look, bigger than, I mean, he's still taller, but it's like he's bigger than the linebackers, obviously bigger than the secondary. So yeah, he's going to have some yards after contact, even at his age.
That content that we've been showing you, by the way, comes courtesy of these two Instagram accounts that I grabbed it from. Yeah. Richard Payne Studios and I am AJ Billings. And then this was filmed in Dallas, Texas, where he spends his off season. We know he does a lot at that Sanders facility as well, which a lot of professional athletes work with. But here are a couple screenshots or a couple photos of him in action. You know, these guys that work with professional athletes have these whole videography teams, you know, because obviously that's their calling card. That's one of their business blueprints. Like, how are they going to get their word out there? Well, yeah, I'd want to work with these guys too. If I saw Derrick Henry having a 31-year-old season the way that he did, second behind Saquon Barkley and knocking on the door for 2,000 rushing yards, wouldn't you? Right?
Look, absolutely. Absolutely. And all I'm looking for next, Bobby, is the extension for this guy. You know what? And that's another thing that was kind of disappointing. There was so much left to be decided from that Bisciotti interview. And again, I mean, the only reason why they're doing it is because they can make sure that the questions don't go, you know, too far or whatnot. But like, what's going on with Derrick Henry? Like, where are the questions with that? Where's the extension? What about locking up, you know, Kyle Hamilton and Linderbaum or other guys? Like, where are the questions of like, hey, what's going to be different this time? What's going to be different this time? So, but anyway, I'm just waiting for that extension to come through. John Harbaugh did say that, you know, they still plan on doing that. So
certainly.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, by the way, if you want to see Derrick running routes as a pass catcher this offseason, well, look no further. So he's doing a little bit of everything. You know, it's going to get that time of year where we're going to be fishing and searching for all Derrick Henry offseason regiment content, physically wise, as we can. And there he is. Nice throw, too. How about the way he led him there? It's perfect. 2 Live Craig. That's the courtesy on Instagram. A lot of these guys that work with professional athletes have professional athlete backgrounds and whatnot. And the King, Sarah, looking like he's in season shape. What a shock at this point in April.
He could play a game right now.
Yep.
I'm sure he could.
One more super chat comes in from Dreams a few minutes ago. 3 AFC championship games with Flacco and a Super Bowl in 4 to 5 years. He's going back to his initial comment that the Ravens should have at least 5 as an organization. Almost 8 years with Lamar. We have 3 playoff wins, 1 AFC championship game, and no Super Bowl, but a top 3 QB. We got to punch it in. Well said, Quion.
He's right.
Let's get to our patrons as well. Greg McCarthy and Michelle Spate, thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate the support that you give us through Patreon, and we love that you guys choose to support us every single month. This is your monthly shout out. If you guys are interested in doing the same, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. All that information can be found in the show notes. There's also a pinned comment right now in the live chat if you'd like to become a new channel member, which is a brand new feature that we're offering here inside the channel.
Hey, good day.
Yeah.
Good day.
That was a mad dash.
Mad dash. Apologies to be late, but actually, no, not apologies. You're welcome for turning that around so quickly.
Isn't that funny how like your initial thought is to apologize? And mine is too, because we love to be with you at noon.
Yeah.
And Hybrid Theory 5 just gifted a randomly assigned new channel membership to someone.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Appreciate you, Hybrid. And thanks to all of you, 70 plus now, Sarah, deep, that have become channel members as a Voltron. Let us know whoever Hybrid Theory's gift went to. We'd love to shout you out. But yeah, it is funny how that works, right? It's like, no. We're actually, you're welcome, because you know, it wouldn't have been the freshest show had we not turned that sucker around in 30 minutes.
No, we would have been talking about, which we probably still will get to, you know, draft mock drafts. We would have been talking about maybe Calais Campbell a little bit longer, or I do have a fun exercise. Maybe we can do that tomorrow. But like, we need to scrap that for Steve Bisciotti.
Totally.
Instead of waiting 24 hours to get to Steve Bisciotti, you know.
Totally.
So.
Adam78 says he was the recipient. So congrats, Adam. Welcome inside the channel membership.
Who
life.
was?
Adam78.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Hybrid, courtesy of Hybrid Theory. There it is. Again, somehow they can see it, but we can't, which is funny. I'm sure we could see on the back end, but we don't see it in real time the way that you guys do.
Yeah.
So that's pretty dope. But great viewership today, north of 3,200. So thank you guys so much for showing up.
3,200 what?
Concurrence.
Thank you.
Yes, Tila. 32 plus 100 deep, which is great for a Wednesday. If you guys would like the video for us, that'd be great. Subscribe. Coming up on 24,000 subscriptions. Hope to hit that number at some point soon. Hit that notification bell. Sarah and I'll be back at 12 noon. We'll be shoulder to shoulder on Friday in Columbus, which I'm looking forward to. And great stuff, partner. Great turnaround.
Yeah, good stuff. No, more for you. You definitely got through that quickly. Pulling all those audio clips. You pulled every single one of those audio clips. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
We'll catch up with you guys in under 23 hours. Thanks so much for spending part of your Wednesdays with us. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. As always, Vaultrons, we appreciate you so much. We'll catch up with you soon here inside the vault. Later.